All right, let's sling some bowling balls. Oh man, you gotta love it. Welcome back, guys. This is Eric with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, we are going to be taking a look at a very new rifle. This is the CMMG Anvil. It is a 458 SOCOM. And guys, we're gonna dig into this a little bit deeper, but first, let's have some fun. We're gonna get after a couple of things and we'll talk about the rifle a little bit more as we go. This thing is an absolute jackhammer. You can't go wrong throwing 458 downrange. That was awesome. Let's move on. We're gonna do something here we're calling the watermelon baffle. All right, we've got a series of watermelons put in a line here, and we're gonna throw a pretty nasty pill at it. This is a Barnes 300 grain triple shock loaded in a DPX round. This is a pretty dang wicked cartridge right here. Advertised velocities around 1900 feet per second, but out of this gun, it's logging about 1920. That's a ridiculous amount of foot-pounds of energy, and this is an upper end of the spectrum for a 458 SOCOM. So let's go ahead and shoot these watermelons with this Anvil here and see how it goes. Never really done something like this before with this bullet, so let's see what happens. Here we go. What? That was kind of silly. Let's see what happened. All right, that was a pretty obscene display of power from the 458 SOCOM out of the CMMG Anvil there. We got a capture of our Barnes triple shock. Generally, this bullet has pretty close to 100% weight retention. The only reason that we didn't get that with this particular capture is because the round went through the melons and kind of skewered downward, and it penetrated over 5 watermelons. You know, as it went in, it started to go down, and when it did, it hit the table, and I think it knocked one of our petals off of the bullet. But other than that, beautiful expansion, really vicious energy being released there, as you can see in the slow-mo segments. We hit number 3 as it skewered down, number 4, and skimmed the bottom of number 5, and then came to rest a few watermelons down where it hit the table and kind of slid up under them. That's an interesting test. I'm almost compelled to try it again with one of the Underwood offerings. So let's break one off and give it a try. This particular round is moving at exactly the same speed, about 1920 feet per second. This is an Underwood 300 grain Lehigh Xtreme Penetrator. And guys, we've done a lot of testing with this bullet, and it is one nasty little contender. So I tell you, we're gonna see if we can get a little bit more direct shot on our watermelons here and try this again. See if we can get this thing to punch on through here. Here we go. Well, it absolutely obliterated our watermelons. I actually saw it skewer out of the side and hit the berm back there. So I know we're not gonna have the projectile, but let's go look at the damage. Well guys, that was an interesting result. The first 3 watermelons are pretty much completely obliterated. 1, 2, well, what's left of 2, 3. Once we got to number 4, things are a little bit odd. I'm not really seeing anything kind of bouncing off the table or the baffle system we put together. Nothing's really odd there, but I think what happened, that thing has just got so much energy. I think it just started to veer off to the right a little bit, and we saw it hit the berm back there, so we know that we don't have our projectile, but that's still an interesting show of force. I mean, that is a humongous general area of just badassery right there. So not too bad. We didn't get the straight line penetration we were looking for. Obviously, this medium is not really designed for this type of thing, but we thought this would be a fun experiment. So tell you what, let's try another thing similar to this, but let's heat things up a little bit. We've got a propane baffle. So this time we've got the small propane cylinders lined up in a row. We're gonna see how many that this 300 grain Barnes triple shock from DPX will shoot through. So give it a try. This is probably a silly thing to do, but you know what, why not? Whoa, yeah! Oh man, now that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that all the time, but it was fun nonetheless. All right, today we're going to be talking about the CMMG Anvil. It's a really, really awesome 458 SOCOM rifle. It is an AR-15, and in other ways it's not. And honestly, it's more not an AR-15 than it is. I'm going to kind of explain that a little bit for you. You guys probably remember a video that we did last year on the CMMG Mutant. Many of you are familiar with the Mutant. It's been a very popular rifle. It is a 7.62 by 39 rifle that takes AK-47 magazines, and it's kind of a dedicated platform that can take the AK-47 magazines, shoot 7.62 by 39, and the construction of the gun is kind of refined and made a lot more beefy and rugged to handle, you know, the 7.62 by 39. So they took that same basic sort of premise and moved it over to the 458 SOCOM. Many of you guys know that the 458 is a great cartridge, but shooting 458 SOCOM through a standard AR-15, it is kind of one of those things that you almost have to dumb down the power of what the 458 SOCOM is really capable of. So what CMMG did is they kind of met in the middle. So right out the gate, the upper is not compatible with a standard AR-15 lower. So that's where the design differences meet and end and go their separate ways. The lower, you can see, has a really beefy 308 sized magwell that's very thick, but the cut in the magwell and the broachment is for a standard AR-15 458 SOCOM magazine. This gun has a mil-spec trigger, Magpul furniture. It has CMMG's key mod rail, has a 16.1 inch barrel. The muzzle device that's on it is kind of a 2-chamber, almost like an AK style break, but the threading on it is 5/8 by 32. And I believe that what they were looking for there is some redundancy to make sure that you weren't going to accidentally put a 308 muzzle device on it and then shoot a suppressor or a muzzle device off the end of your gun. That would be a very bad day. So they went with 5/8 by 32. That way you have kind of a special proprietary sized muzzle device that goes on it if you want to suppress it. This rifle does utilize an adjustable gas system should you choose to experiment with different suppressor settings and everything like that. The particular optic that we're running on this gun today is a Vortex 2.5 to 10 PST Viper. It's setting in a one-piece LaRue mount. I got this particular optic through Optics Planet. Really good people. The overall scheme of the gun is it points very naturally. It's actually very light considering. And a good way to look at the 458 SOCOM as a cartridge is the fact that it's basically a semi-automatic 4570. Okay. In order to realize the full power potential of the 458 SOCOM, CMMG had to build this rifle. This rifle was built around full power 458 SOCOM ammunition, whereby standard AR-15, if you feed it a steady diet of full power 458 SOCOM ammunition, it's just not going to hold up for the long run. So that now, literally, you have a rifle that you can feed this thing a steady diet of full power ammo, and you can realize the full potential of the 458 SOCOM. CMMG is offering this rifle in about 3 different base configurations. This one's kind of the middle configuration. The entry-level kind of configuration is not different than what you see here, really, other than the standard military spec grip and stock, like a standard M4 furniture. This one has the mil-spec trigger, but it's been upgraded to the Magpul furniture. And then they also offer the exact same rifle you see here, but with a Geisley. Now, you're probably noticing that these guns are not really out there yet. At the time that this video is being made, this is actually a couple of weeks before the gun's even been released. So this particular Anvil rifle is one of the very, very first ones to come off the line. And they were nice enough to send us one to have a look at and kind of see what we think and put the gun through its paces. We've been doing some accuracy testing, and we've been getting some really good results with 100-yard groups. We were out shooting it with a variety of different ammunition the other day, and it was doing quite well. We were getting very consistent velocities overall, so nothing really negative to report there. We've done some baseline ballistics gel testing in the past with the same exact barrel length. We've done stuff where we've shot ballistics gel, we've shot body armor from AR-500 armor, we've shot through drywall, we've done various penetration testing. If you guys have followed our videos before, we've done a couple of videos already on 458 SOCOM as a cartridge. Now we're going to combine some of the knowledge we've gotten from those videos, and we're going to put it into this Anvil, which it's funny they call it the Anvil. I almost feel like they should call it the Thor's hammer, or the, I don't know, something that has to do with smacking things, because that's what 458 does. It's a big old bowling ball of a round that gets out of there, and you got really generous bullet weights. You can get up to like 350 grains on the bullet weights. You can get some really heavy bullets going down range, and it's basically like having a semi-automatic 45-70 in your hand. So tell you what, we've been having a lot of fun today, but let's get on to some other things. I can think of some things we can probably test out with this. We backed off to take some shots at range. We know the gun shoots good at 100, but we're gonna take it out to 200-300 yards. Kind of a long way for 458 SOCOM. It's not really designed to shoot that far, but nonetheless, we're gonna give it a try. We're gonna be running some of the Black Butterfly 350 grain. It's a plated target round. So this is not really meant to expand or do anything like that. It's meant to be a target round. So we're gonna take a few shots. I expect the drop on this to be a little bit more than what we've been shooting. Most of the stuff we've been shooting is 300 grain. This is 350. You ready? I'm gonna launch one down at 200 down there just because I can. I'm gonna give it about a foot.
Go ahead. Just to the left of the target, elevation was perfect.
Gotcha.
Center.
All right, that 3-liter soda's mine.
Oh, just left. Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take out his buddy too. Just to the left of him. Just to the left of him. Right in the neck. All right, 250 yards, here we go.
Send it.
Gotcha. It's shooting surprisingly flat out to 250.
It is. It's got a very little trajectory.
All right, I'm gonna aim right in the center. Okay, so it is dropping a bit.
Yeah, it's dropping maybe about 18, 20 inches.
Heck yeah. All right, those 350 grain flat nose bullets weren't doing too bad there from Black Butterfly ammunition. Seem to be lobbing in just fine. We're gonna go the opposite end of the spectrum and we're gonna try some of the Polycase ARX. This is a 140 grain bullet that's moving at a considerably butt-naked speed compared to those heavies. So we're gonna launch a few, see how flat she shoots and how fast it gets there. Just because we can. 458 SOCOM, CMMG Anvil. All right, I'm just gonna aim right at the one at 3 down there, straight on, and see if it just puts it right in there. All right. Saw it.
A little low.
Yep. Just under it.
Yep. Got it. Oh yeah.
Putting them right in there.
A little high.
Well, I tell you what, that is one consistent round, is putting them right in there. One thing I do notice though, that 140 compared to that 350, you definitely don't get that just smackdown factor that comes from that 350 hitting the plate. It definitely lobs it right in there. It definitely hits it. It's nice and consistent, it's very accurate, but it really does lack that power that you expect to see. So out of some of the things that we were comparing earlier, I mean, at close range, you know, that Polycase is a wicked round. I'd be really curious to see what it can do to some fleshy targets at that kind of distance. So maybe that's something we'll, you know, revisit in the future. But, you know, the gun delivers the goods at long range. Not so bad so far. Everything's working just fine. So let's move along, find some other things to get into. What we've set up here is a comparison of the 5.56 to the 458. We've got a standard piece of safety glass, supposed to replicate, obviously, a standard windshield with a bunch of watermelons behind it. We're going to hit it with 3 rounds of SS109 green tip, and then we're going to compare it to just a standard round out of the 458 to show how much energy is getting through that glass. Here we go. First to 5.56. That's definitely not something you want to encounter. Okay, that was pretty gratuitous. But let's launch some 458 at the same target, take out some of our melons on the left side there. All right, that wasn't bad. We're going to perform the same exact test with the Anvil here in 458 SOCOM. We're going to run some black butterfly, 300 grain Nosler. It's moving around 1910 feet per second. So a lot of these offerings that we've been shooting in the 300 grain range have been about the same speed, so we're getting very consistent results. This is a 300 grain Nosler. You can see pretty run-of-the-mill round. Let's give it a try. All right. One thing that I just thought about, this gun does lack a forward assist. That's something we didn't mention earlier. Not a huge deal. All right, here we go. Well, one thing that I can say right out the gate that I noticed right there is the fact that the watermelon chunks definitely spread to a wider range in terms of the circumference around this our little fake car that we've set up here. You know, auto glass is a really interesting barrier to shoot through. Some bullets, it chokes up really bad. Others, not so much. We saw the 5.56 actually fared pretty well in the auto glass test, which I expected from experience. But let's go have a closer look, see what the backside of that whole mess down there looks like. All right, we're painting a pretty horrible picture right here, okay? We can see there's watermelon junk all in the inside of the windshield, all inside our interior of the vehicle. Every single watermelon was completely screwed up when it got hit. I'd have to say this test is, I don't want to say inconclusive, but 5.56 definitely, you wouldn't shrug that off too easily, okay? But that 458, I promise you, looking at the slow-mo, you can see that that 458 just has much more energy, much more frontal mass to the projectile. That's a really interesting test. I've always wanted to try something like this with auto glass. But I'll tell you what, I'm just not quite there. Tell you what, let's get rid of the glass and try just a standard car door. All right, strangely enough, I'm experiencing a little bit of deja vu right now, but we're gonna test a 5.56 out of the same rifle against a car door and the same watermelons back there. And we're gonna compare the 5.56 to the 458 once again. So let's go ahead and knock her out here. Here we go. Well, I kind of figured that 5.56 would pretty much just bounce right through the car door. We knew that. But let's put some big old holes in that car door at the 458 and then compare our results. Okay, so breaking out the 458 Anvil, same 300 grain Nosler from Black Butterfly as before, this time through the car door. Let's give her a try. Oh man, that was a scary looking mess. Let's go have a look. All right, I think that we're really starting to see where the rubber meets the road with this comparison. The glass, maybe not so much, and that's good to know because many of us have 5.56 AR and that's an interesting test. The Anvil performed beautifully through the door. We got some gratuitous nasty on the backside of this thing. You can see just all this watermelon matter on the inside of this door and everything. So that's a pretty interesting test. 5.56 favored quite well too, as you would figure that it would. But I'll tell you what, let's break out an engine block and we're gonna create kind of a scenario where we're maybe 50, 60, maybe 75 yards away, and we're gonna shoot an engine block with this 458 with some of those Underwood Lehigh Xtreme penetrators, and let's see what it does to an engine block. Let's do it. All right, we backed up to about 75 yards. We're gonna take a couple of shots at the engine block here. And what I'm trying to replicate is, let's just say a checkpoint where the penetrating capabilities of the 458 would be put to the test on like a car or something like that. And plus it's just interesting. I mean, who doesn't love shooting engine blocks anyway? But it is an aluminum engine block. Now there are a lot of different type of engine blocks. There's like iron and aluminum and all this kind of stuff. This one's aluminum. We're gonna take some shots with the 300 grain Xtreme Penetrator from Underwood because that's what it's designed to do. And this is kind of a realistic distance. and let's just see what it'll do to an engine block. Give it a little try here and see what happens. Guys, I don't think that car is going anywhere. Let's go have a look and survey the damage, shall we? Well, guys, I think it's safe to say that the day probably would have been saved by the 458 SOCOM. We're going to peel this cover away and have a look. We've definitely got some kind of fragmentation of the block right here, and I'm looking in here. There's a clearly defined hole going about halfway back through the engine block. That's pretty dang clean. You know, the thing is too, guys, cast aluminum's pretty soft. You know, you got to think any kind of cast metal like an engine block is generally going to kind of shatter rather than kind of bend per se. So it's not like shooting AR-500 where the steel's going to stop the bullet. You know what I mean? In this case, it's cast, so it's just going to shatter and push on through until it loses all of its energy. Without moving too far out of the way, it's kind of hard to tell exactly where the bullet stopped. They didn't make it out the back of the engine, but I'm pretty sure that if this were a running vehicle, that this motor would definitely be in a bad way. It wouldn't be running for long if it didn't stop right there, okay? So I think what is probably gonna have to happen, we're gonna have to revisit this particular concept with a running car. That's just the bottom line. So expect that. We're gonna get some running vehicles out here and we'll shoot them with some big bore stuff, and we'll have fun stopping cars. Okay, so that's something we're gonna have to visit in a future video, but it's safe to say the 458 is certainly a contender for that task. That's an awful lot of fun. So thank you so much for watching today's video. We had a ton of fun making it. We always love to get after these kind of concepts because they're so much fun. I wanna say thanks to CMMG for providing this anvil for us early to have a first look at and get a little bit of an idea what we think about the rifle. It's a neat proprietary platform that serves its purpose really well. It does that one job really well. I really like where they're going with these kind of ideas, so I'm curious to see how this stuff will hold up as the future goes on. But we will see. Some full power ammo being put through them for the long haul. See how well they hold up to a bunch of full bore, full power 458 SOCOM ammo. So thank you for watching today's video. We had a ton of fun making it, and we'll catch you next time.